Welcome. It is Saturday, September 18th, 2021. It is 10:30 a.m. Central or Eastern Standard Time, 9:30 Central, and this is episode number 4 of uNIVERSITY. I'm your host, Zach Berman. It is week 3 of college football around the country, and an interesting week 3. You get a lot of games on the schedule that you almost get the feeling of, hey, maybe these athletic directors and maybe these schools thought they would be more exciting when they scheduled them. Case in point, maybe a Michigan State, Miami, maybe a Virginia Tech, West Virginia. Penn State, Auburn might live up to the hype, but it's too soon to say. I don't think either of those teams are going to be ranked in the top 20 at the end of the year. I'll get to that game in a second. There's a lot to talk about. I'll have picks for you. I'll have players to watch, games to watch. I'll give you your whole rundown of what you should be doing today when you turn on the TV or your computer or whatever you stream off of. But let's start with last night, because the best college football weeks always have something crazy that happens in your Thursday or Friday night games. And last night we had 2. One of them was a good game. It was close. And the other one just kind of took all the drugs at once, and by the end of the night, you're just like, what the heck is going on? The first one to talk about, how about the Maryland Terrapins? 3-0 on the season after defeating Illinois 20-17. Something to think about. Illinois took down Nebraska in week 0 in that weird game that was supposed to be played in Dublin, Ireland, ended up getting moved to Champaign, Illinois. What is wrong with the Illini? Or maybe, are they not that good? Or is Nebraska just that bad? Joseph Petrino won it on a 32-yard field goal as time expired. Maryland, a convincing win over West Virginia week 1. They look good against Howard week 2. And again, anyone's going to look good against a bad team like Howard. Week 3, they take down Illinois. 3-0 are the Terps. And it was a hard-fought game. There was a weird play where Casey Washington scored a 30-yard touchdown after another guy in the Illini fumbled. It was almost, it was a fumble. It was a big play, and then he fumbled at the end of it. Casey Washington, the receiver for the Illini, picked it up and ran it in. Definitely screamed trap game for Maryland, but they start their Big Ten season 1-0. And as of now, it's probably not going to stay this way. The Terps are on top of the Big Ten East. And shout out to Taulia Tagovailoa, the younger brother of Tua, 32 for 43, 350 passing yards, and 1 touchdown, no picks. He looked fantastic. That's not the game we're talking about last night. We're going to be talking about what happened in UCF Louisville. Sometimes you just get these games where maybe the hype wasn't there. Friday night, UCF fans took over stadium down in Louisville, and for a little bit, it looked like UCF was going to run them out of the building. And then that Friday night, ACC, AAC, I guess for now, after dark magic took place. Your final 42-35, the Cardinals end up winning, but there's a lot more to it than just the score. After getting blown out by Ole Miss week 1, Louisville fans were calling for Scott Satterfield's head. Maybe last night will shut him up a bit. I think they have a good team, or maybe Ole Miss is just that good, because now it's week 3. We're starting to figure out exactly who really has the juice and who doesn't. But Louisville, it was a back-and-forth game. UCF tied it up on a 6-yard touchdown run by Dylan Gabriel. Dude's a stud. With 1:21 to go, Louisville ends up giving the ball back to UCF. And with 35 seconds on the clock, Henry, roll the footage.
1. Gabriel to throw. This is intercepted. A game that had no turnovers.
You don't see that there yet.
And this is going the other way.
A quick kick for Jalen Alderman, a 66-yard return. Louisville shocks UCF. Gus Malzahn, his first loss as the head coach of the Knights. Possibly a season saver, possibly a job saver for Scott Satterfield. There was not a turnover in that game till that point. But Louisville impressed. They opened up the playbook. They were running trick plays back and forth. I really liked what I saw out of the Cardinals. But that brings us to today. I don't know if Louisville's going to be a contender in the ACC. It's a weak ACC. So they could be for all we know. Also, just thank you to Henry Freeman for getting that clip up. A wonderful producer. But let's talk what's going on today. The early games are intriguing. Definitely, like I said, games that when maybe Cincinnati and Indiana scheduled them, or we're looking at the calendar last year, people thought, oh, Cincinnati and Indiana. Indiana was really good. Indiana has looked about as consistent as the New York Football Giants. They got demolished by Iowa. They didn't impress last week. I'm going to go a couple straight up picks, and then I'll get into some of my betting picks for later today. But actually, I think Cincinnati rolls. Another one that I have on my list, and this is one that we're going to be betting on, Virginia Tech and West Virginia. I don't know why West Virginia is favored in this game. Virginia Tech has been the much more convincing team as of late. That doesn't make sense to me. That does not make sense to me at all. Virginia Tech is favored -3. Or excuse me, West Virginia's favored -3. The game's in Morgantown, starts in about an hour and a half. Virginia Tech has already taken down a ranked team. Virginia Tech also looked convincing against Middle Tennessee State. West Virginia, they turned the ball over a lot, and that ended up dooming them against Maryland. Jared Dagey is an interception machine. And I look at this game, and I think that Virginia Tech and their stingy defense, they already shut down Sam Howell. My upset pick, give me Virginia Tech +3. That's my first upset pick of the week. I like the Hokies. I think they're really playing for Justin Fuente's job. It's a crucial year down in Blacksburg. Virginia Tech is going to go into a tough environment in Morgantown on the road, and they are going to win. Another pick against the spread that I like, who's usually doomed the week after, let's say, a big contending team goes down. Well, that's probably the group of 5 team that's playing Ohio State this weekend. And that would be the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. I don't know what a Golden Hurricane is, but it seems pretty cool. Tulsa's going to get thrashed. Ohio State's going to be furious. They lost to Oregon in a game where they were favored big. Give me the Buckeyes -26.5. I think that's just about as easy of a pick as you can make. And the nightcap for your betting purposes, that is Penn State and Auburn. The Whiteout is back, first time in 2 years that we're going to have a Whiteout in Happy Valley, and it's an SEC team that makes it down. Here's the deal. It's not a good SEC team. I think Auburn's going to be unranked by season's end. They haven't played anybody. I think Bo Nix is really going to struggle in this environment. He's very much like the Eli Manning of college quarterbacks. He can win big games, but he can also just look dreadful for games and games on end. And Penn State, they shut down Wisconsin. They shut down Ball State. Their defense is stingy as all heck, and you have 100-something screaming fans clad in white. I think it's going to be an incredibly difficult environment for Auburn. Brian Harsin, his first tough game as head coach of the Tigers. I think Penn State wins by 2 scores. So give me Penn State to cover at 6.5 up. As for my head-to-head picks, as you look at these beautiful, wonderful graphics, thank you, Henry, as always. The big game that everybody had circled, and this is the epitome of, ooh, this would be an intriguing matchup. Hopefully both teams are good by then. One of them is good, and that would be the Oklahoma Sooners. Nebraska. As somebody that I will keep on going back to this. It's one of the funniest things I spent my summer in Nebraska working for a minor league baseball team. And those Cornhusker fans might be the most delusional bunch of college football fans out there. It's like going to Dallas and listening to all these people say, ooh, with a straight face, I think the Cowboys could win the Super Bowl this year. People in Nebraska, all right, Adrian Martinez is good. Scott Frost can maybe get his stuff together. I think the Huskers go 9-3. I'd be surprised the Huskers scored 9 points in the first 3 quarters of this thing. Oklahoma rolls. We're talking steamroller. We're talking wrecking ball. We're talking any sort of heavy machinery you could possibly imagine. Oklahoma will throw it all at the Huskers, and I think this is the week we really start talking about when does Scott Frost get fired and who does he get replaced by, because we've already got one big blue blood job open with USC. I think we have Nebraska open by the end of the season. I don't think Scott Frost lasts this season. Yeah, Nebraska beat Buffalo. Nebraska beat Fordham. Shout out to Fordham scoring a touchdown against an FBS school for the first time in since 1968 or something. Good on the Rams. Good on Fordham. But yeah, no, Nebraska's gonna completely get just annihilated because their head coach Scott Frost pours milk before his cereal. My upset of the week. We don't know what Michigan State is. They've had two cupcake-ish kind of games. I like their weapons. I like who they have at quarterback. I like what Mel Tucker's doing at head coach. And I don't think Miami is very good. I think Alabama is going to do that to a lot of teams. What I also think is that this is a down year for Appalachian State, and they still gave Miami a lot of problems. Everyone's talking about the cat that those Hurricane fans saved in the stands of Hard Rock Stadium. I think the only thing that's going to be saved this weekend is Michigan State's reputation. Miami is ranked. Michigan State is not. It is 2-0 versus 1-1, and I think the Spartans, I don't even know if this should be considered an upset per se, but I think Michigan State pulls the quote-unquote upset. And one that could be closer than expected. I'm not confident enough to say that this is going to happen. I would not be surprised if it does. Give me Purdue in a close one in South Bend against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. If you've noticed a trend on this show, I have been very bullish on Notre Dame getting upset. I don't know if it's going to happen. Purdue has played Oregon State and they've played UConn. They've played one of the worst Pac-12 teams and the worst team to exist in college football ever. But Notre Dame has not impressed me. It took them a lot to just beat FSU, and at first we were like, oh, maybe FSU is really good. And then FSU loses to Jacksonville State, and I could watch that Hail Mary again and again and again. And then it took till the last second, and Jack Cohn popping a dislocated finger back in to beat Toledo. Notre Dame has kept it close with everybody. And Purdue, watch out for my man George Karlaftis, the big, hulking Greek freak. Yes, he is a native of Athens. On the defensive line, moved to West Lafayette in high school. This kid is unbelievable. He is a physical monster. And he's one of the best edge rushers in the country. And if you haven't heard his name yet because he was out with COVID all of last season, you're going to hear it today. Notre Dame's offensive line is not what it always is. This is a weaker than usual Fighting Irish offensive line. I think Karlaftis is going to get his defensive line to feast. And I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think Purdue keeps it a lot closer than people are going to expect. Other big games to look at throughout the week, everyone's going to be talking about Alabama, Florida. Now, Florida's got some intrigue. There's definitely something there with Anthony Richardson as the quarterback battle with Emory Jones continues on. As much as I like the Gators, this is going to be a tough environment. This is going to be the first tough environment Bama's played in 2 years. The Swamp is going to be rocking, and rolling. I don't like that Gator defense. I think Florida is just going to be no match for Bryce Young. He's going to be no match for Robinson or Mechie or any of those guys on the offense. And Bama is just going to roll the tide big in Gainesville. And I say big, I mean it's not going to be a game. And it's just going to establish everything we always thought about Alabama. They're Alabama. Do I think there's anybody that can beat them in the regular season? Texas A&M, they have University of New Mexico. A&M has not impressed me. People have been like, well, maybe this is the year that A&M can take down Alabama. It's in College Station. That game comes in a few weeks. I don't think so. Getting a question right now. Could Coastal Carolina cover the spread? They're playing Buffalo in about an hour and a half, hour 15 minutes. I think the Chanticleers roll. Spread is -14 for the Shots. Buffalo did not impress last week against a pretty bad Nebraska team. I think Grayson McCall and his Coastal Carolina Chanticleers on the road. It's going to be a tough environment. And the Chanticleers, which is, if you don't know what a Chanticleer is, it's a name given to a rooster, especially in fairy tales. I love that you just have that up. But give me Coastal Carolina today. It could be close for a half, but I think the Chants end up running away with it in the end. As we go through the slate, yes, there's some intrigue in these early games. I've gone over Cincinnati, Northern Illinois, and Michigan. I think Michigan is back. I think Michigan might, especially with a weaker than usual Ohio State team. I don't know if they're going to be back, but I think they're back to being like a good ranked team. I think last year was a fluke. We won't know too much about them this week because they're going to smack around Northern Illinois. But, yeah, give me the Wolverines. We'll have more answers about Michigan in the coming weeks. Georgia Tech and Clemson, oh boy. Oh boy. Speaking of Northern Illinois, they beat Georgia Tech. And Clemson, there's a lot of doubters about the Bulldogs that have lingered since they lost to Georgia. Sure, they didn't impress against South Carolina State. I don't know how you don't impress when you win 49-3, but they didn't look like they had that Clemson pizzazz to them. They didn't have that mojo we usually see out of them. But I think they get the job done and make Georgia Tech look like what we think Georgia Tech will look like. Kent State and Iowa. Yeah, no, Iowa's going to roll. I've already gone over Ohio State and Tulsa. How about the Razorbacks? They're going to beat up on Georgia Southern. This is a chance for Arkansas to start 3-0 for the first time in forever. To go back to Cincinnati, what is Cincinnati's ceiling? I think it's going to say a lot about what they do today and what they do in South Bend in a few weeks. But I look at Myjai Sanders, I look at Des Ridder, I look at Sauce Gardner, one of the best names in college football, one of the best cornerbacks in college football to boot. There's possibly 3 first-round picks on that Bearcat team this year. This might be the best group of 5 team we've ever seen in our lives. I would like to say they make the playoff. I don't think they do. I think if they were in a Power 5 conference, they'd be maybe a 2-loss team. I think they're a good New Year's 6 team. I think they win their New Year's 6 game this year. I think they are very well set to come into the Big 12 in the coming years. I think they can run the Big 12 once they are in the Big 12 because I don't think Luke Fickell's leaving. He's never left the Midwest. I think he loves that program. I think Cincinnati has everything down to possibly become a lead player in this new Big 10 or Big 12. But this year, I think the Bearcats go undefeated in the regular season. I think they beat Notre Dame. I think they beat Indiana. And I think they wind up in the Fiesta Bowl or the Sugar Bowl or the Peach Bowl or whatever. Who is Vanderbilt playing this week? The battle of the smart schools of their conferences is Vandy and Stanford. The Cardinal and the Commodores. That game tonight. And, well, Stanford impressed. Stanford really impressed when they beat up on USC. Stanford is the cause for Clay Helton getting fired. And they're just going to run over the Commodores. Vanderbilt beat Colorado State, one of the worst group of 5 teams. They lost to Eastern Tennessee State in a bloodbath. Cardinal in a big one that game tonight on ESPNU. I can't trust Vanderbilt yet. I like Clark Lee. I think he's going to be good for that program, but there is a lot to rebuild. There's just nothing but rubble right now. You have to build the foundation first. The primetime games tonight, South Carolina and Georgia. I think South Carolina is the same they've always been. They're a mediocre team. Somehow they have one guy that's going to wind up getting picked top 10. I'm going to try and pronounce his name, Kingsley Engabari. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Their edge rusher. He's a complete. So this is a very good edge rushing class. But on the road in Athens,
probably already knew you could get
nobody wins, especially not at night, and especially the Georgia team that is probably still mad that the last time South Carolina came to Athens, they won. South Carolina beat them on the road last time. I think Georgia gets their sweet, sweet, sweet revenge and knocks out the Gamecocks in a big way in primetime. That game, 7 o'clock on ESPN tonight. Give me the Dogs. Woof, woof. 7:30 ES or ABC. It is the Penn State Whiteout, first time in 2 years. I've already said a little bit about it. I think Penn State could be a problem this year. Auburn, this is going to be one of those mediocre Auburn teams. Every 3 or so years, Auburn is going to be very, very good. Not this year. This is not the year for Auburn where they're just going to be able to deal with Georgia, deal with Bama. Those years will come. Brian Harsin is a good coach, and I believe he can do just what that program needs to turn things around. But in a tough environment, I think the Nittany Lions win by 2 scores. I think Bo Nix is turnover prone. I think that Jahad Dotson is going to make a name for himself tonight. Give me the Nittany Lions. So, the big story that is swirling around the college football landscape, I've written about it on the app. If you don't have the app yet, I think you should absolutely download it. It is a wonderful, wonderful place. There's nothing like it really in the sports media market where you can just talk sports and argue and give your hot takes, and people will see what you think, and they'll react and will break news. And it's a lot of really smart people that are patrolling around that uSTADIUM app. Definitely download it. It's awesome. I look forward to meeting some of you guys on there. But the big story, first of all, download the app on the App Store or Google Play. Clay Helton was fired after USC got whooped by Stanford. The question is, who is the next coach of the USC Trojans? People have thrown around all these names. They've thrown around, maybe Urban Meyer will do the Bobby Petrino and leave Jacksonville. No. As funny as I think it would be, no. Granted, it would be downright hilarious. I think Urban Meyer is not going to succeed in Jacksonville, but he's going to try. So cross Urban Meyer off the list. Also, for the people throwing around Mario Cristobal's name, why would Mario Cristobal leave the Nike money in Eugene? Why would Oregon, and they have Stony Brook tonight, Oregon rolls big, but why would Mario Cristobal leave all these 5-star recruits he's bringing to Eugene? Why would he leave Phil Knight's Nike money? Why would he leave this program that he has helped build for a lesser program in the conference? Oregon is the cream of the crop in the Pac-12. Could another coach bring USC back? Yes, absolutely. It's still the Ducks' domain for now, and I don't think Mario Cristobal, and he's got a ridiculous buyout too, he's not going to go anywhere. Luke Fickell would be a great fit, great scheme fit, the great personality fit for USC, but like I said, he is not leaving the Midwest. He is staying in Cincinnati. So who do I think could potentially be the next coach of the USC Trojans? I'm going to write off Urban Meyer. I mean, Urban Meyer kind of wrote himself off. I'm going to write off Mario Cristobal. People that throw around Cristobal, I don't think they realize how big of a pull Oregon has. So no way Cristobal leaves Eugene. No way Luke Fickell leaves Cincinnati. But that leaves a lot of names up. First name that I think when it comes to mind, when Pete Carroll was the savior of USC, when he carried that program, Pete Carroll, a big personality guy. Big personalities, if you use them right, they work with the USC job. And when I think big personality, I think good recruiter, I think someone that has brought programs back from the dead, I think PJ Fleck, who has done a wonderful job as the head coach of the Minnesota Golden Gophers. PJ Fleck right now, put him, I'd say, in that upper echelon of definitely a possibility. I think the whole row the boat mindset, I think his whole culture that he brings to his programs, whether it be Western Michigan, whether it be Minnesota, I think it works perfectly with USC. And he's a damn good coach, too. So PJ Fleck is one of them. People are going to throw around Chris Peterson's name. Peterson had a whole thing with the donors and everything that comes with taking the USC job. That's why he stayed at Boise. That's why he stayed at Washington. I don't think Chris Peterson likes the spotlight, even though he's familiar with the Pac-12. So Chris Peterson's going to stay wherever he is. Matt Campbell at Iowa State. I think he would. But at the same time, my problem with Matt Campbell is more of he can't beat his rivals. He can't beat Iowa. And Iowa State was really, really hyped this year, and they have played 2 bad games. They almost lost to an FCS team. They were ranked top 10. Everyone's coming back. Iowa State's going to be a problem. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think Matt Campbell could be a good candidate. I don't know if he's a good fit. I don't know if he's going to be the guy that save USC, but he could definitely be the hire per se. I don't love the idea. Here's a name that I really like. How about Bill O'Brien? Now, people genuinely forget that how good of a coach Bill O'Brien was, how he kept them at Penn State when all hell had broken loose at that program, where there was not a happy day to be had in Happy Valley. Bill O'Brien kept that program's head above water. There was a reason he got that Texas job. I think he thrives as a college coach. I think he's going to get his typical boost that every Alabama offensive coordinator gets. I think Bill O'Brien could be a wonderful head coach for Southern California. And that NFL pedigree, yes, he really did kind of destroy the Texans in his last few years. Doesn't discount the fact that he's been to the playoffs in Houston, and that says something to potential recruits. Ooh, this guy was a former NFL head coach. He took an NFL team to the playoffs. He coached Deshaun Watson. If you're a top prospect and you're going into college, you can look at that and be like, ooh, I could play college ball in Los Angeles and get coached by a guy that worked in the NFL? Maybe. So Bill O'Brien, that's another name I put up there. If you keep on thinking, are there any other big names to me that really say, oh boy? Because something to think about, for the first time in a long time, there is competition in Southern California because Chip Kelly might finally be having his renaissance moment with UCLA. Chip Kelly might actually have something built out in Pasadena. I really like what Chip Kelly has done. He's got a couple of these great transfers to come over. Thompson Robinson is awesome. I really like Zach Charbonnet, who's a top recruit to Michigan. I think that UCLA is going to be a problem. To the Clemson offensive coordinator, Tony Elliott, I think he stays put. I think he takes a smaller job. I think you need someone that already has head coaching experience to take the USC gig. I feel like if you do anything less than that, you're throwing someone into the fire. And if USC starts off cold, there's going to be immediate pressure. See, if Sarkisian wasn't already at Texas, I think he would have been the perfect guy to take the job. Now, then there are names that maybe he could be hired, but I don't think he'd be a good fit. Tom Herman's one of them. But also, Texas is just like an impossible situation to win in, so I wouldn't think too much about it. The name, and I can't believe I forgot this, the name that everybody is talking about with USC, and there's going to be a whole lot of talk about it right now, especially with the state of their game tonight, is James Franklin. Apparently there is mutual interest for the Dan Patrick Show between James Franklin and Southern California. But what makes me think, if you're James Franklin, you step out onto that field tonight and you see 100,000 fans screaming along to Zombie Nation, but we are Penn State. You think USC is going to give you that atmosphere? I don't know if USC is a better program than Penn State. Historically, they are, but right now, I don't think they are. I think they're maybe about the same caliber. Maybe even USC is a little bit lower than Penn State. I think it would be shocking and disappointing if James Franklin were to leave Penn State. I think that would be just absolutely brutal for those Nittany Lion fans. I think it would just be a heel turn, especially to the team that Penn State lost to in the Rose Bowl. I think it would be a really slimy move by a head coach that doesn't strike me as such. So I can't see James Franklin walking away from Penn State because that school, once they find a guy they love, they don't let go. And James Franklin is absolutely adored in Happy Valley. You can't leave. The last name that I think about with USC, and they throw him around, and I don't think he leaves either, is Greg Schiano. Greg Schiano is very good at pulling programs back from the dead. He's got NFL experience. When I think of Greg Schiano in the NFL, I think of him trying to bum rush the Giants on a kneel down in 2012, but I really think he is going to bring Rutgers back from the brink for a second time. I don't think he leaves Piscataway. There is a lot of room to grow at Rutgers. He's done it once. He can do it again. He's already got 4-star recruits committing to Rutgers. Rutgers, the laughing stock of the college football world. I think he stays put in Piscataway. I think he does not leave Rutgers, and I think Rutgers flourishes as a result. And last but not least, Eric Bieniemy, Chiefs offensive coordinator. Could he be a fit at USC? I think he would. I don't know if he takes the position. I'll get to that in a second. I think he'd be a wonderful fit. And if you're a college kid, if you're a high school kid, and you can think about, oh my goodness, I could play college football for the guy that coached Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Travis Kelce and that offensive line, and you think, I could become that? This guy has helped those guys become what they've become? I can be one of them? As much as I think he would be a slam dunk, picture-perfect fit, if I'm Eric Bieniemy, there are going to be a lot of teams desperate for my presence in the NFL next year. This could be a big year for new coaches. You got to think about I put down that Zach Taylor would be the first head coach to be fired in the NFL. I think Cincinnati could possibly have a swap. I think Minnesota, I think Mike Zimmer could potentially go. Mike McCarthy, maybe. Matt Nagy, probably. Vic Fangio, possibly. There are a lot of names around that NFL head coaching circle that could be getting replaced. Joe Judge, I think his seat could be smoldering in a few weeks. Eric Bieniemy is going to be at the top of almost every NFL GM's list, and Eric Bieniemy knows that. So if you're Eric Bieniemy, do you take a USC job where you could potentially turn a former blue blood into an empire? Or do you take an NFL position where maybe if it doesn't pan out, you're gone in a couple of years? The only person that knows what the right decision is Eric Bieniemy. So that's up for him to figure out. I think he's a very good hire. I think he actually would be a perfect hire. And USC would become absolutely dangerous. So we shall see. But for any other interesting takes on this season, let's go on a Heisman watch real fast. My top 3 Heisman picks right now, 2 of them are SEC quarterbacks. 1, Bryce Young, but you already knew that. Bryce Young, it's so early to pick a Heisman in general. Bryce Young is a weapon. He is a monster. He is showing exactly why he was going to be the top prospect 2 years ago. And I think he leads Alabama to a national championship, if not this year. Next, he's probably a top 5 pick in the 2023 draft. Another guy that I love, and people in the NFL circles are starting to pick up on him, Matt Corral at Ole Miss. Dual threat, does it with his arm, does it with his legs. Lane Kiffin's offense is wicked awesome. Sorry, that's a couple of years I spent in Connecticut coming out. But Matt Corral's offense that he runs over at Ole Miss is scary, and I think the Ole Miss QB is absolutely a Heisman finalist if he keeps this up. Last but not least, I think we do wind up getting a defensive Heisman candidate this year. That man's Kayvon Thibodeaux. Hopefully he plays this week. The fact that he didn't play last week and Oregon still beat Ohio State soundly on the defensive side of the ball Thibodeaux he is a Chase Young, Bosa brother level defensive end talent. We have not seen this many bang, 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 bang edge rushers come out of the draft in forever. And this is a very, very good edge rusher class. You got Drake Jackson out of SC. You got Karlaftis out of Purdue. You got Kingsley Ngabare at South Carolina. You have, oh my gosh, Myjai Sanders at Cincinnati. I could go on and on and on with this edge rusher class. Oh my goodness, there's that guy at Georgia. There's a kid at Georgia. Oh my God, Adam Anderson. He's amazing. This is a great edge rusher class. I think a lot of teams are going to be happy with their edge rushers in the NFL draft, but Thibodeaux is a beast unto himself. We've never seen that blend of athleticism and size and skill out in Oregon before. Oregon, he was down to Alabama and Oregon recruiting, and Mario Cristobal stole him. You know, he's an absolute monster. I think he takes over in a pretty weak Pac-12 and makes every offensive tackle in that league question their own sanity. So, and Zach Harrison at Ohio State. How could I forget him? But this draft is 3 absolute defensive studs, all pro potential. Kayvon, Zach Harrison, Derek Stingley at LSU. I think there's 4. You're missing a big one, Nick. It's Kyle Hamilton at Notre Dame. My pro comp for Kayvon Thibodeaux, I look at his size, I look at his skill. He is scary fast around the edges. There's something about him that screams, what if Jadeveon Clowney works out in the NFL? Because that's what I see in Kayvon Thibodeaux. He reminds me of Jadeveon Clowney. He's just a force to be reckoned with. So a couple other questions. I'm taking questions really up until next couple minutes. But does Liberty cover the spread over Old Dominion? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Malik Willis is a monster. Liberty absolutely covers. Will Levis, future first rounder. I actually have a funny story about Will Levis. I got into it on last week's show. Will Levis, I went to high school at Dale Hand High School in Madison, Connecticut. Will Levis is a native of Madison, Connecticut. And my friends and his friends on the football team, he didn't play at Daniel Hand. He played at a private school. I forget which one. Would go down to the same little park on the Long Island Sound that we would, and we played pickup basketball with Will Levis, the Kentucky QB, a couple times, and he dunked on me. Kid's stupidly athletic. I mean, he eats bananas like a serial killer, but he's a monster. He's going to keep Kentucky very relevant over the next few years. Evan Neal is better than Penny Sewell. I would think so. Penny Sewell, I don't know if he turns out in the NFL because A, Detroit just does not handle players well, and B, they're not playing him in his natural spot. I see Evan Neal. I see his physicality. I think he's a better version of Mekhi Becton, which is tough to believe because Mekhi Becton is very, very good. But Alabama tackles tend to be very good. SEC tackles tend to be pretty good. Evan Neal is likely a top 5 pick in this next year's draft. Penny Sewell did have a good debut at left tackle. That is his natural position. So Dan Campbell needs to realize he can't be playing him at guard. He was born to be a tackle. Let him fly there. But Evan Neal is he's awesome. So keep that on your list. Defensive players to watch. I love George Karlaftis. I will not shut up about George Karlaftis. Every year I get a couple of these draft crushes, and I will just hammer them home. He is one of them. He is, for me, last year's version. There's always that one edge rusher I fall in love with. Last year it was Azeez Ojulari. This year it's Karlaftis. Now, other guys that I like, Isaiah Likely, the tight end for Coastal Carolina. He's a name to watch. He's my second favorite tight end in the class. First favorite tight end in the class is, Jalen Weidermeyer at Texas A&M. He's that vertical threat. He's got those hands. He's just all over the field. He's the number 1 option for that Aggie offense. And boy, I can't wait until this show translates more into draft stuff as the year goes on, because the NFL draft is my Christmas morning. Knicks draft crush, Tyler Linderbaum at Iowa, center. I mean, he's just a human wrecking ball. He plays physically. He just does not stop. He's got that motor that goes. He might be my favorite interior offensive line prospect since Quentin Nelson. So make of that what you will. My receiver draft crush, it's Treylon Burks at Arkansas. Dude just has the hands. He's got the feet. He's got the speed. He's got that motor. He just doesn't stop. My quarterback draft crush, I still think Desmond Ridder is awesome. Desmond Ridder is, I think he'd be getting a lot more recognition if he was at a Power 5 school. My favorite tight end in the draft, like I said, it is Jalen Weidermeyer at Texas A&M. Weidermeyer is great. Isaiah Likely is great. Jake Ferguson at Wisconsin is great. Des Ridder, not my QB1. I'll get into that more later. I think it is Malik Willis. I think if you give Malik Willis to the right coaching staff, and the reason I keep on thinking Malik Willis is going to be that good, there's going to be a team that winds up with Brian Daboll as their next head coach. And Brian Daboll was able to figure out Josh Allen. And you look at Malik Willis and you see he's basically Lamar with a cannon for an arm. The only downside with Willis is even though he was an SEC talent, he was drafted by Auburn, he's playing not such great competition at Liberty. Now, that hasn't kept quarterbacks from becoming very good in the past. Case in point, Josh Allen at Wyoming, or any of the North Dakota State guys. Or you take a look around the quarterback rooms for these NFL teams, and just because you don't play for a great team, that doesn't mean you're not going to have a shot at being quarterback, or a good one at that. But Malik Willis, to me, like I said, Lamar with an arm. And if you have a head coach that can really just harness a quarterback that has just this unlimited physical potential, he's the kind of guy, if you put him in the wrong hands, he's going to stink. But if you put him in the right hands, if you put him in a Brian Daboll, or if you put him in, Jets fans, you'll like this, LaFleur sort of situation that Zach Wilson's in, I think you got your QB1. I don't know about Rattler. He's got to show more to me. Sam Howell, he's just another. I loved Sam Howell. And I think the right coaching staff could get something out of him, but he's quarterbacks in the state of North Carolina. I don't trust him anymore. He could be another Trubisky, another Jones. I don't love it. Carson Strong is my wild card at quarterback because people are like, ooh, he's really good. Not that many people watch him because he's playing at Nevada. He's playing late at night. He impressed against Cal. I like what I saw out of him. I think he needs more. At the same time, I'm not an NFL GM. I'm just a Jewish kid from New Jersey that loves to talk about the draft. But Strong is very good. This draft class intrigues me. And that's why I love college football so much, because you get to watch these guys week in and week out. And you start immediately figuring out around this time, who is that guy? Who is going to be? It was around this time last year where everyone was like, oh boy, this Kyle Pitts kid on Florida, he's really something. Or maybe, oh wow, look at this Quentin Nelson kid on the line at Notre Dame. He's just destroying everybody he faces. Could he be something? Another quarterback that I like, and someone that I think is going to be talked about a lot more, Brennan Armstrong at Virginia. Yeah, you're going to like, Virginia. Listen to these stats he's put up in his first 2 games. Granted, they weren't against good teams. September 4th against William & Mary, 21 for 31, 339 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Against Illinois, 27 for 36, 405 passing yards, completion percentage of 75%, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also ran for 34 yards as well. Brennan Armstrong is someone that's going to fly under the radar. And if Virginia keeps stacking wins, they play North Carolina tonight in a game they can absolutely win. That's another good upset pick. Maybe, just maybe. you could start talking about him as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, or in college football. Another guy that I love, and I got to show some love here to my team, my school, the Missouri Tigers. Tyler Beatty at running back for Mizzou. He's got something in him. Mizzou right now is one of the best teams at running the ball in college football, which is ironic because they can't stop the run if their lives depended on it either. But keep an eye on Beatty. This is his first year as really the bell cow back for the Tigers, as Larry Roundtree, of course, who's now with the Chargers, has had that role. Tigers play Southeastern Missouri State in about 45 minutes on ESPN Plus. I can't stand that they're making us download these streaming services to watch college football. But Beatty already has looked like a multifaceted, multi-threat back, where on September 4th against Central Michigan, he ran for 203 yards on 25 attempts and a touchdown, and he also had 3 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown. Against Kentucky last week in a game he lost, 14 attempts, 61 rushing yards, and also 10 receptions for 88 yards and a touchdown. He is absolutely your bell cow back for the Tigers, and I think he winds up playing a big role in an NFL team next year. The best head coach in college football. I feel like that's the easiest answer you can come up with. It's Saban. So without a doubt, it's Nick Saban. But if you look at your top 5 maybe for head coaches, I go Saban. You got to go Dabo. After that, it gets a bit murky. I go Kirby Smart. I think you still have to say Ryan Day. And for your 5, it's very clear who 1, 2, 3, 4 are. I think 5 is Lincoln Riley. It still has to be. I think 6 through 10 is a more intriguing list for who's that great of a college football head coach. I think Luke Fickell winds up there. I think Matt Campbell winds up there. I think Mario Cristobal winds up there. There's a lot of gray area in that 6 through 10. The worst head coach in college football, what's his face? Ed Saul at UConn is gone. Might be Dino Babers at Syracuse. That's a really tough spot. Syracuse might be the worst Power 5 team this year. Yeah, that's. I already don't like what Jed Fish is doing at Arizona. I don't like Nick Rolovich at Washington State. Jimmy Lake has just been brutal at Washington. Biggest risers at head coach? That's a better question. Shiano's getting himself back up there. Sam Pittman at Arkansas. How about them Hogs? The Hogs are back. I think Pittman's a gem. I think Arkansas is going to have their guy to turn that program around finally. Other big risers this year, Kalani Sitake at BYU. He's got to start getting consideration as one of the better coaches in college football because they lost a lot last year, and they're coming right back like nothing happened. BYU plays tonight. That's your after dark game. Ranked on ranked, Arizona State and Brigham Young. That's a 10:15 kick on ESPN. Could the Cougars go to 3-0 after beating 2 Pac-12 ranked opponents? They beat Utah for the first time in 9 years last night. We shall see. That's a good game against a tough, but so far I'd say underachieving Arizona State squad. That's definitely one to watch. Other big risers. Elijah Drinkwitz at Mizzou. That's a pretty easy one to pick, especially with the recruiting he's been getting. I like Loxley at Maryland. Mike Loxley's been due for a breakout year for a while. I was going on about the Terps early in the stream. I think Loxley's awesome. And the fact that he was able to land Taulia Tagovailoa's performance and everything he's been able to bring to that program, I think Maryland is due for a renaissance. Maryland and Rutgers, the two what do you call it? The two doormats of the Big Ten might finally be turning things around. Marshall over Eastern Carolina. No. Eastern Carolina played South Carolina very well. I think ECU is going to be ripe for an angry performance. Give me the Pirates in that one. Biggest performer of the day. Last question for Henry. Oh, boy. I think we see somebody break out in that Alabama game. I think we see a receiver or a running back. Everyone's going to be, well, Bryce Young, I think there's going to be someone who we talk about at the end of the day, and we're just going to be like, oh, boy. How the hell did they find this guy? After everybody else they found, where do they get him? I got to think about who that would be. Maybe Slade Bolden, maybe. I mean, it's a cop-out to say, well, it's going to be Bryce Young. But I'm going to go with my earlier pick, and I'm going to say George Karlaftis at Purdue. I think he's going to feast on that defensive line at Notre Dame. So give me Karlaftis as your big breakout star. And the big breakout quarterback, I think it's Brennan Armstrong. I think Brennan Armstrong and George Karlaftis are your two guys that you're going to be talking about at the end of the week of, I think Brennan Armstrong does enough. And my one last upset pick for the road, I think Virginia pulls the upset tonight in Chapel Hill and takes down North Carolina. Now, last but not least, before I go any further, I'm gonna end this week like I plan on ending every week in the future, and that is the worst game of the week, the one that you do not watch under any circumstances because it's going to put you to sleep. It's going to be the most boring game on television, and this week that is Duke hosting Northwestern. Two mediocre teams, two teams that have zero experience playing in stadiums with any sort of atmosphere whatsoever. It's going to be a dreadful game, 3 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Steer clear of that game because it's probably going to be like a 17-13 snoozer. A lot of turnovers, expect a lot of punts. It's going to look like an NFC East game. So enjoy it if that's your MO or if that's something you like. But otherwise, steer clear. Watch Alabama, Florida or something. Or heck, even watch Ted Lasso. It'd probably be better. Well, that is it for University. I will be back with you guys to break down everything that happened today in the not-too-distant future. Until then, sit back, relax, enjoy college football. First game's kicking off in approximately half an hour, a little bit more. But until then, always pass your classes, and I will see you soon.